This is Parasomnia, Book 2 in the Things That Go Bump in the Night trilogy by J.C. Bratton. Performed by Floor 5 Theater Company. Produced by Floor 5 Theater Company and Blue Milk Publishing. To learn more about the project or to download the ebooks, please visit www.bluemilk.co. Parasomnia, noun, medicine. A disorder characterized by abnormal or unusual behaviors of the nervous system during sleep. The man of my dreams has almost faded now, the one I've created in my mind. The sort of man each woman dreams of in the deepest and most secret reaches of her heart. Elise McKenna, Somewhere in Time. Diabolical forces are formidable. These forces are eternal, and they exist today. The fairy tale is true. The devil exists. God exists. And for us, as people, our very destiny hinges upon which one we elect to follow. Ed Warren, Paranormal Investigator.
Parasomnia. Prologue. Paradox. I had a difficult time sleeping ever since my dad passed. It was over 4 weeks ago. Losing him was the worst loss I ever experienced, more difficult than the dissolution of my marriage. Although my eyes were billowy from all my tears, last night I was able to sleep a full 5 hours, a huge accomplishment. Upon waking, something very bizarre happened. Before my closed eyes were a series of rapidly moving images in succession, crisp, high-resolution stills of unrelated people and places moving quickly along my field of vision. I had absolutely no idea what this was all about. It was a frightful but exciting feeling. Paradoxical? Each image was engaging. The faces, the places, all were so very interesting. Then it happened. I saw him. He was the most perfect man I had ever seen in my life. He looked to be close to my age, maybe early 30s. He had fair skin, light brown hair, hazel eyes. There was a slight crease along his right cheek when he smiled. There was an innocence about him. I was instantly attracted to him, not just physically, but in a magical sort of way. After about 30 seconds, his image slowly faded away, and I woke up. Wow, I could not shake his image. Who was he? Part 1. Loss. I stumbled out of bed and put on some yoga pants and my old university t-shirt. I brushed my hair and teeth and added a small amount of makeup. With my dark hair, pale skin, and lack of sleep, I kind of had a goth vampire girl look going on. Although the image of the perfect man was still looming in my mind, I went about my morning. I definitely needed some coffee. I locked my apartment and headed over to the coffee shop downstairs. I live in an apartment home community in the heart of Silicon Valley. I moved in about a week ago. They gave me a great price on a recently remodeled 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I had a bunch of furniture, so the extra space helped. It was 9 a.m. People were walking their dogs, jogging along the park, busy with their mobile devices. Just a typical Saturday. It was beautiful outside, a clear day. The large palm trees were gently swaying in the wind. I picked up a cold foam cappuccino and parked myself at one of the tables under an umbrella. It was nice to be at peace after a series of unfortunate events over the last few years. About 3 years ago, my husband of 10 years filed for divorce. We weren't able to have children, which led to communication issues. He accused me of being married to my career and possibly even having an affair. That was far from the truth, of course. However, in his mind, we were done. The only positive was the divorce settlement, which left me with a fair amount of savings. However, my father's failing health led to large medical bills, back taxes. I helped out as much as I could up until the end. My father lost his battle with cancer and advanced kidney disease. The bright side was that I had a stable job, close friends, and a sweet kitten at home to keep me company. I decided to take a month off from work, though, to sort things out in my head. I took out my phone and began browsing through the headlines. Stocks, politics, latest gossip. Wait, this seemed interesting. Missing girl, Ohio State University campus. Jamie Patterson, 18. Before I could get to the story, a message came in. It was a text from my ex-husband, Rob.
Alex, I'm sorry about your loss. Jim was a good man. I know this must be very tough for you. What I'm about to say will not be easy, but here it is. I'm getting married again. I've known Melissa now for 2 years, and I feel it is the right time. We're also expecting a baby in June. This really comes as a pleasant surprise. I wanted for you to hear it from me rather than just finding out secondhand. I hope you're hanging in there.
Of course this wasn't going to be easy for me. However, I had braced myself for this moment ever since Rob told me that Melissa moved in with him. I just stared at the text for about 15 minutes. I figured I should reply back and feign happiness. Rob shattered my heart, more so than anyone ever could. I couldn't eat or sleep for days. It was like part of my soul had died. Given my responsibilities as a caregiver, having romantic relationships was difficult post-divorce. There were a few lovers and one-night stands, nothing significant. I was an idealist, always seeking the perfect romance. I thought I had the perfect romance with Rob. We met on a blind date. Rob was at an engineering conference that day, and I worked for tech support in one of the big internet giants. We opted to go bowling and then have dinner. I was actually a pretty good bowler. My dad taught my sister and me at a young age. Dad usually bowled 250 plus. He really should have gone pro, but his bad hip always caused problems for him.
You're pretty good over there, shorty,
Rob said as I hit a turkey. He just had to comment about my height. Being only 5'2", I could still swing with the best of them. Unfortunately, Rob wasn't the best bowler. He had a number of gutter balls. See, software engineers aren't good at everything, I mused. Rob smiled back. He had such an amazing smile. He was the epitome of the phrase tall, dark, and handsome. He totally made my heart melt. We then had a wonderful dinner at the Chinese restaurant near the bowling alley. We talked for over 2 hours. It was refreshing to not only be attracted to someone, but to also have great conversation. I really hoped he liked me at that point. I got my answer as we left the restaurant.
Hey, hold right here.
Rob stopped me as we were walking back to my car, and he gave me a warm, gentle kiss. Poor guy had to bend down a bit to kiss me, as he was well over 6 feet. Who cares? I was in love.
Shell,
I met the man I am going to marry, I shouted on the phone to my sister as I drove back home. And it happened 3 years later. I didn't have any family left in the area. Mom died shortly after Shell was born. Dad never remarried. In fact, he loved that quote from Betty White. Once you had the best, who needs the rest? Our Aunt Ada helped us out a lot when we were growing up. She ended up retiring with her family in Florida. Last year, Shell moved to San Diego with her husband and the girls, so after my divorce, it was pretty much just me and Dad. Today was flower cleanup Saturday at the Memorial Park. Dad was laid to rest next to Mom at an outdoor mausoleum. I drove up the hill and had the replacement flowers with me. Dad entrusted me with his care and arrangements. Once we had learned that his cancer metastasized to his bones, Dad's health spiraled downward at lightning speed. I had to rush home from work to meet the in-home care nurse. EMTs were there to get Dad's heart started again, and he was rushed to the emergency room.
Are you Alexandra?
A man in his 50s with a strong European accent, German perhaps, interrupted my thoughts as I sat in the emergency waiting room. Yes, I'm Alex.
Alex, I'm Dr. Kraus. You're James Anderson's daughter? If you can follow me.
Dr. Kraus guided me to the emergency room operating floor. They had Dad hooked up to so many machines. It was just so overwhelming.
Alex, your father's potassium level was at 11. His kidneys failed. Unfortunately, there's nothing more we can do. He is brain dead. You need to make the final call, Alex.
Dr. Kraus paused to allow me to absorb what he said. The choice was mine. Did I not do enough to help him? I felt so powerless. I couldn't save him. Hell, I couldn't even save my marriage. There was only one thing I could do. I looked over at Dad. It was time to just let him go so he could join Mom. Go ahead, I whispered to Dr. Kraus. The rest of that moment was a blur as the nurses and Dr. Kraus ended life support for Dad.
Beautiful day, isn't it?
A quirky female voice startled me as I was sitting on the bench in front of the family crypt. Oh, Rox, sorry, I didn't see you there. Rox was the funeral director who assisted in the interment. She was in her 40s, about my height, curvy with loud red hair. Ever since we bought the family crypt, she would call me to tell me about random sales for additional plots or crypt add-ons. In fact, she called me over Thanksgiving last year about their Black Friday sale. Well, I guess death was a business too.
I used Flower Cleanup Day as a chance to check in with some of the families as well. How have you been, girl?
Rox asked as she touched my shoulder. Well, I'm hanging in there. Been a bit difficult to sleep, but that's to be expected, right? I thought about mentioning my episode this morning, but I wasn't quite ready to talk about it.
Oh, it happens a lot with traumatic episodes.
Rox replied.
It will get better, though. Just takes time. I'll let you get back to your visit.
Thanks, Rox, I said as she began to walk away. The flower cup holder was way up high. I needed the pole to help me reach the cup. Hey, Rox, I yelled. Where's the... Rox picked up a call as she was walking, so she didn't hear me shout out to her. I had to look around for it myself. The mausoleum had 3 tunnels, all reserved. Guess these were nice commission checks for Rox. I referred to the people interred as my parents' new neighbors. Ashley Browning, a 16-year-old who tragically died in a car accident, the Di Matteos, 10 crypts reserved for the large Italian family. Rebecca Erickson, a 55-year-old mother of 3 who lost her battle with ovarian cancer. Each plot had a marker with a photo. So many people with interesting life stories. Tales of love, tragedy, joy, pain. I finally located the pole. It was next to him. Oh my God, it was the man in the still image. In fact, it was the same image from my dream. Dr. Scott Andrew Collier, March 3rd, 1982 to May 20, 2017. forever in our hearts. My perfect dream man lived in the area? Dead at the young age of 35? I was fascinated.
He was such a beautiful boy.
An older woman, maybe around 65 years old, startled me. She was about 5'5" and wore a summer dress and a large hat. "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there," I said politely. "Was Scott your son?"
Scotty was my only child. Oh, I loved him so. He was so handsome and smart and perfect.
The woman proceeded to add new flowers to Scott's crypt. "Ma'am, how did he die, if you don't mind me asking?" I inquired of my newfound friend.
Scotty died in a car accident,
the woman said as she gently arranged the flowers.
He was a research scientist and did such sophisticated things that blew my mind. Scotty went to Seattle one day to work on a special project. He was driving back to his hotel and lost control of his vehicle. Oh, I almost forgot.
The woman reached into her large Louis Vuitton handbag and pulled out a handmade woven object to hang over the flower vase. "What is that?" I asked curiously.
That, my dear, is a dream catcher,
the woman said.
Scotty had these terrible nightmares. He always went to sleep with it. I couldn't find it until yesterday, else I would have placed it in his casket. Did you know Scotty?
Oh, no, I did not. I wasn't about to tell her about my dream. I just came over to grab this pole. My father is interred at the same mausoleum.
Too bad. You seem like a sweet girl,
the woman said with a smile.
Scotty never married. He never seemed to find the one. He looked for her long and hard, but no one ever fit the bill. What's your name, dear? I'm Diane.
My name is Alex, I said to the woman. Well, Diane, I'll leave you be. Thank you for the chat. I walked back to Dad's crypt. Dr. Scott Andrew Collier, a brilliant scientist, never married, died tragically. How was I connected to all of this? Part 2. Bonding. It was around 3 p.m. and my friend Steph planned to stop by. Steph was 38 years old, had a master's in cognitive psychology from UCLA, lived with her boyfriend Ryan, a firefighter, and had no children. She was tall, cute, and had dark curly hair. Her father was Jamaican and her mother was Swedish. Steph worked at Stanford in a sleep clinic. We both went to Cal for undergrad in psychology, but we didn't actually meet until about 7 years ago when I used to do tech support at the Behavioral Sciences Center on the Stanford campus. At the clinic, Steph focused on mood disorders and how they affected sleep. We made it a point to meet up each week to talk through my sleep deprivation problems, in addition to the latest gossip. While I waited for Steph, I did some searching online about my new obsession, Dr. Scott Collier. I found his public obituary on the Memorial Park website. Scott Andrew Collier, Ph.D., an award-winning artificial intelligence research scientist, was born in Boston, Massachusetts, to Timothy and Diane Murphy Collier. He was preceded in death by his father and two stepfathers, Douglas King and Adam Burgess. Scott had a large family, many aunts, uncles, and cousins. A scholar athlete growing up in Boston, Scott was the state record holder in the 200-meter butterfly. He graduated from the prestigious Holy Cross Academy and then attended MIT, where he earned his BS, MS, and PhD. His research in robotics and AI led to numerous patents, even at a young age. His last known research centered on the concept of the collective consciousness and how it related to dreams. He moved to the San Francisco Bay Area shortly after receiving his doctorate to continue his research at various laboratories in the region and guest lectured at Stanford. Even with his successful career, Scott still made time to have a huge social circle. Friends described him as handsome, charming, and overly generous. The funeral service will take place on May 27th at 10 a.m. Lectured at Stanford? I wonder if Steph knew who he was. My doorbell rang. I was still old school and had to use the peephole to see who was at the door.
Hey, AAA.
A friendly voice sounded from the outside. I hated it when Steph called me that. I earned that silly nickname because my full legal name was Alexandria Alice Anderson. When I married Rob, my initials stayed the same. His last name was Archer. Go figure. Steph came in with a bottle of wine, cheese, and crackers, and she just couldn't wait to start talking. I loved that about her. She had a way to get me out of my shell. Steph settled in on my love seat while Elmer, my kitten, raced off to the other room. I brought over a tray with the wine and snacks and then sat next to Steph.
Hey, did you hear about that girl who's missing at Ohio State?
Steph asked as she poured me a glass of wine. Yeah, I was getting ready to read that when you-know-who sent me a text, I said as I took the glass from Steph.
Oh God, Rob. What's he gloating again about? Perfect Melissa.
Steph rolled her eyes as she asked. Well, he's gonna marry her, in fact. I shouted as I took a sip of vino.
OMG! No!
Steph's eyes were wide open. But that's not the best part, I said sarcastically. She's pregnant.
Get out!
Steph yelled in surprise while spilling some wine on her blouse. I quickly ran to the kitchen to get a rag.
Okay. Hold on here.
Steph said as she gained her composure and cleaned herself off.
So all of a sudden, Rob has miracle sperm? Oh my God. How are you holding up?
I'm okay, I assured her. It was bound to happen. I just really need to move on. I still had my wedding photos, my wedding gown, my engagement ring, my wedding ring, and a large number of cards and love letters from Rob. Maybe it was time to part ways and stop clinging to the past. Let's shelve that for a moment, I said. I want to tell you about something very bizarre.
Okay, come listening.
Steph said with her mouth full of crackers. I had the weirdest thing happen to me last night, I continued. Remember, I've been having problems sleeping? Well, I slept about 5 hours, but I woke up. I saw these rapidly changing still images appear before my eyes.
Parasomnias.
Steph interrupted.
Not uncommon for people who have gone through all the trauma you have experienced.
Okay, then parasomnias, I said agreeably. Well, there's more. The last image that appeared was of a man about mid-30s, very handsome. I was totally drawn to him. But get this, Steph. He was a real person. I saw his vault at the cemetery today. He's in the same mausoleum as my parents.
Whoa, that's pretty creepy.
Steph crinkled her eyebrows in disbelief. Seriously, his name is Scott Collier. He's a research... Steph stopped me mid-sentence.
Wait a minute. Alex, are you referring to Dr. Scott Collier, the research scientist from MIT?
I shook my head in agreement with Steph's question.
He's been to my lab a lot. He died in a car crash. It was in the news.
Steph gave me a "didn't you know this already" look. Steph, come on. You know how life has been for me the last few years. I explained. I feel like I have had tunnel vision. I only recently started keeping up with the latest events.
Okay. Let me get this straight.
Steph always liked to recap.
You saw Scott in a hallucination. Then you stumbled upon his grave today, and you had no idea who he was.
I nodded in agreement.
Coincidence?
Steph asked in hesitation. I don't know, Steph. What do you know about him?
Well, I didn't interact much with him, but I'm familiar with his research.
Steph went on to explain.
People were just in awe of him. Brilliant, handsome, charming. I mean, I remember once he asked me where the men's room was located, and his thank you smile alone was enough to make me weak in the knees. He was kinda mysterious, though. He was really fascinated with parasomnias. In fact, I recall he had claimed to have had some bad nightmares when he was a kid. I'd have to look back on our files.
Yes, I interrupted. Actually, I met his mom at the cemetery. She added a dream catcher to his flower vase, so looks like the nightmares were pretty serious.
What was his mom like?
Steph asked.
You can tell a lot about a man from his mom.
Well, she was interesting, to say the least, I mused. Her Louis bag, unless it was fake, indicated to me that she liked status. She kept gloating about how perfect Scott was.
Mama's boy probably has narcissistic tendencies. Madonna whore complex too, like Trey McDougal on Sex and the City.
Steph started laughing. Geez, don't be so quick to judge, girl, I jokingly yelled at Steph.
Well, when I get back in the office next week, I'll let you know what I find.
Steph added as she took another sip of wine.
Are you still keeping your sleep journal? Continue to do that. In the meantime, try to relax. We'll figure this out.
That was so easy for Steph to say. I felt so unsettled. The time was 10 p.m. Elmer had been lounging on my bed ever since Steph arrived and decided to stay there when she left. I put on my pajamas and slipped under the covers. I wondered if the images would appear again tonight. Based on some internet searches, parasomnias were sporadic. There was no guarantee I would have these visions every night. Well, it was hard to get to sleep, so I opted for the radio. Something I hadn't listened to in a while was Things That Go Bump in the Night, hosted by Pete Williams out of the high desert in Nevada. I had always been a fan of the paranormal, which I often felt was an extension of psychology. Being an INFJ in the Myers-Briggs model, I was typically viewed as someone who had a psychic level of intuition. So I relaxed with my headphones as Pete Williams took me to dark places unknown.
Thank you for joining us this Saturday evening, October 21st, 2017. For tonight's show, we're going back to the topic of urban legends. Back on May 20th, we focused on Bloody Mary. Tonight, we received a number of calls and emails claiming that missing Ohio State co-ed Jamie Patterson was taken by the mirrored mistress.
Oh wow, that reminded me. I needed to follow up on that story.
We're gathering more facts and will follow up as soon as we have a clearer picture. In the meantime, we will focus on another mysterious figure. This will be a wild tale for all you insomniacs out there.
I started feeling really drowsy. Kind of odd, because I was so restless just a moment ago. Pete's voice faded as I went into dreamland. I had been asleep for close to 5 hours when I felt myself coming out of the dream state and into wakefulness. It happened again, rapidly changing still images. I felt a little more aware this time. Slow down, I told the images. They slowed down. Speed up, I told the images. They sped up again. Then there he was, Scott Collier. Stop, I said. Scott's still image froze before my eyes. It was a different picture of Scott. He was wearing a business suit and a fedora. He still looked extremely handsome, but something was off. Hello, I said. The image suddenly came to life.
Help me, Alex.
Scott said. I instantly shot out of bed in terror. He heard me and knew who I was. Part 3. At this point, I had no idea what was going on. Parasomnias! I'd heard something about this before on Things That Go Bump in the Night. The show had a user forum online. I decided to browse it for information. Encounters with Bigfoot, shadow people, UFOs, urban legends. Dreams. I opened the Dreams forum under the subtopic parasomnias. Seems like there was quite a bit of activity recently. Looks like Abigail_Parker posted on March 12, 2017.
As I am beginning to wake up, I see a myriad of fast, still images flashing before my eyes, through my mind. I can often remember a lot of them, but can't seem to find any special meanings. This can go on for quite some time, intermittently between drifting in and out of regular non-REM sleep. When this happens, I really can't wake up properly. I'm still very sleepy, and it feels that I should sleep it off. Anyone else experience this?
I added my reply. Maybe Abigail would see it? This phenomenon has been happening to me, too, ever since my father passed away. One thing that I've been able to do that I haven't seen anyone post yet, I have been able to talk to the image. For example, one of the images was that of a young man in a hat. I told the still image to stop. It stopped. Then I said, hello. The image came to life and said, help me, Alex. I woke up in terror, shivering, had to catch my breath. It was so scary. Please, if any of you read this, contact me. As I closed the lid of my laptop, I heard a knock on my door. It was 3:33 a.m. Who could be knocking on my door this early? It was a gated community with on-site security, but sometimes people wandered in. I looked in the peephole. There was no one there, but there was a package left on my doorstep. I slowly opened the door. There was no one around. It was quiet, and the walkway was well lit. On the ground was an open box with 2 items, a journal and a fedora, just like the one that Scott was wearing in the image. I quickly grabbed the box and locked my door immediately. I didn't care what time it was. I needed to call Steph. Pick up, Steph, I said to myself.
Alex, it's what? 3:45 in the morning? What's going on?
Steph asked while yawning. Steph, someone randomly left a box at my front door. It has a journal and a fedora in it. This is really super creepy. And on top of it, Scott talked to me in my dream while wearing the same fedora from the box. He said he needed help. Can you and Ryan please come over?
Girl, we're coming in 30 minutes. Don't touch anything.
I just sat on my couch frozen and stared at the mysterious items. What in the world was going on? Steph, Ryan, and I sat in silence on my sofa for close to 10 minutes.
That is one funky, Freddy Krueger-esque hat over there,
Ryan commented and broke the silence. Yes, I added. I fell asleep during last night's episode of Things That Go Bump in the Night. Pete was going to tell the story.
AAA, we'll listen to it,
Steph said.
A guy who has been doing some consulting with us, Dr. Paul Yang, was the guest speaker. Can you grab your laptop? The live stream should be archived.
Dr. Paul Yang graduated from Harvard and was one of the leaders in sleep disorder research. He was an average-sized man, mid-40s. He worked closely with Scott, and they were friends. I opened my laptop and found the episode online. We skipped over to the interview with Paul.
I'm here on our guest speaker line with Dr. Paul Yang, who consults at the Stanford Sleep Clinic and specializes in parasomnias. Thank you, Dr. Yang, for joining the broadcast.
No. Thank you for having me.
There's a lot of buzz out there that the scary stories we were told as kids are real. I mean, we are hearing word that Bloody Mary may be real. What are your thoughts on urban legends?
You remember Ed Warren? I'm sure your audience knows who he is, but if not, he and his wife were the paranormal researchers in the real Amityville Horror.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, my favorite quote from Ed, paraphrased, is, "The fairy tale is true. The devil exists. God exists. And for us, our very destiny hinges upon which one we elect to follow. So, as a man of science, I take an agnostic approach. I work with a lot of patients who are struggling with horrific dreams, hallucinations, sleep paralysis. What they are experiencing is real to them. Maybe we should be keeping an open mind."
I like that approach, Doctor. Seems since around May, there has been a sharp increase in the number of reports globally of this mysterious figure in a fedora that haunts people in their sleep. From what we gather, he feasts on fear. What's your take on this?
I've been speaking with a number of witnesses who claim to have interacted. He is apparently looking for his other half. Seems he has consumed a soul recently tainted with personal demons and emptiness. He now needs to find the ultimate compassionate soul to balance him out. Think of yin and yang, dualism. With this combined power, he can manifest himself in and out of the dream world and freely roam the earth.
God and the devil. Like Ed Warren said, my jaw is dropping. How can he be stopped?
Unfortunately, I don't know the answer. He's seeking an empath, someone who has deep intuition, almost psychic level. That person is going to hold the key.
Steph closed my laptop.
Okay, now that you heard the background story, there's more,
Steph said with a serious tone. I'm listening, I said with a bit of hesitation.
Well, after I left your place, I went back to work and grabbed some files.
Steph reached into her bag and pulled out some folders.
Now, this is highly confidential. You did not hear this from me, right, babe?
Steph looked over at Ryan.
You were talking to me?
Ryan said with an innocent smile on his face as he was browsing his phone.
See? This is why I love this guy,
Steph said as she gave Ryan a quick kiss. Steph continued.
Okay, you know those still images you saw? On March 12th of this year, Scott figured out a way to record these parasomnias visually. They are like reels of film, like a mini-movie. But not everyone's can be recorded. It requires someone who has a deep connection into the collective consciousness. Scott had that special gift. He was able to record his own parasomnias. However, when he did this, he opened a gateway. In his notes, he claims that there was a shadowy figure with a hat in his sample recordings. Given that you were able to control and even speak with these images, tells me you might be that empath that Paul was referring to on the show. I think he's looking for you.
Oh, that's really comforting, I said sarcastically. There has to be a way to stop this.
Well, let's take a look at these clues you were given,
Steph said.
Maybe you have a spiritual helper in all of this.
I took out the journal. There seemed to be a lot of pages missing. On the inside cover, it said, "This journal belongs to Abigail Parker." Abigail Parker from the online forum? Hey, I might know this girl, I said. She posted on the Things That Go Bump in the Night forum about her own parasomnias.
Well, let's give it a read,
Steph demanded.
Part 4, Abigail's Journal.
This journal belongs to Abigail Parker. March 13, 2017. Someone finally answered my ad for a roommate. I can't believe they increased my rent again. Even on a software developer salary, it's been tough to stay afloat. Her name is Geneviève. She only wants to stay for 3 months. I can't be picky at this point. I need to pay the bills. She is really beautiful, tall, with long, dark brown hair. She likes wearing hats. She has a European accent. I think she is French, given her name. Anyhow, I am total plain Jane next to her. Not even close to having model looks. She paid me cash up front, which is a little odd. March 27, 2017. Geneviève is gone a lot. She probably has some huge social circle. Speaking of social, I signed up on a dating app. I don't know about these things. I like keeping to myself, but I need to get out there. My friend at work told me that this app was the best. The first person to reply was a guy named Scott. He looks way out of my league. He is 5 years older, never married, no children. He has a freaking PhD from MIT. And he is gorgeous. I swear, if he saw Geneviève, he would probably drop me in a heartbeat for her. Apparently, though, he has little time to meet quality women, so he's trying the dating app scene. He thinks I'm pretty and wants to continue the conversation. I have his phone number, so let the texting begin. April 14, 2017. I'm so in love. I know I haven't met him yet, but I just have this feeling. A feeling of really connecting. It is so real. Scott feels it too. Actually, he offered up that we may be soulmates. He's trying to set up our first date. It's just tough with his work and travel schedule. I know this seems lightning fast, but sometimes when you know, you just know. April 18, 2017. We set it up. April 21st at 7 p.m. We will meet at the bar downstairs at the Fairmont, then dinner at the nearby Italian restaurant, then ... Oh my God. April 20th, 2017. I caught Geneviève looking at my journal today. She said it was a mistake because she misplaced hers. Not sure I believe her. I will be locking this up each night. Tomorrow's the big date. He sent me a text saying that he wishes we could just get married now and not tell anyone. He's obviously joking, but he is such a romantic. It's like two people who are so obsessed with each other and nothing else matters. It reminds me a lot of Somewhere in Time, when Richard connects with Elise, a romance that transcends beyond space and time. She knew he was coming. He would be her greatest romance, or the one who would destroy her. April 22nd, 2017. Last night was magical. We had so much chemistry. I spent the night with him at the hotel. I did learn something interesting. He used to have very bad nightmares. He kept a dream catcher with him. Something about a man in a hat that haunted him since he was a kid. Anyhow, he says he loves me. I still can't believe it. He's going up to Marin next weekend. I'm going to see if I can go up there too. April 30th, 2017. Scott said he would be at the house in Marin. I went up there. His car was there, but he wouldn't answer the door. I called, texted, nothing. So I came back home. Oh wait, a text just came in. He says he's sorry. He fell asleep. He promises to make it up to me. He says he has a room picked out just for us in Las Vegas. We just need to pick a date. I would love to spend the whole weekend with him. Genevieve just walked in. Wonder where she was. I haven't seen her since Thursday. May 15, 2017. He's been so distant. I think, though, by threatening to leave, I got through to him. He wrote me back today to say we can have dinner at Alexander's on May 18th, as he is heading to Seattle for work on the 19th. I plan to confront him on his aloof behavior. He promises there is no one else. May 19, 2017. Last night I found him with another woman. I was late to the restaurant because my car wouldn't start. I had to do a ride share. I finally got to the restaurant, and he was at the bar with some tall woman with blonde hair. She had something in her hand. I couldn't tell what it was, but she was laughing, and so was he. I stormed out of the restaurant. I can't believe I fell for his shit. He never really loved me. I knew he was either going to be my greatest love or my worst nightmare. I hate him. I can't breathe. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I left him so many messages, all ignored. I don't know where Genevieve is, but she left her sleeping pills behind, next to her fedora. It won't hurt to take a few, right?
Taped to the last page of the journal was this newspaper clipping. Abigail Parker, 30, tragically passed away in her sleep on Saturday, May 20, 2017. She was the only child of John and Tessa Parker, both of San Jose. She attended San Jose State University, where she earned both her bachelor's and master's degree in computer science. She was very bright and caring and will be sorely missed by her friends and family. Abigail wished to be cremated and have her remains scattered in San Francisco Bay. Part 5. Dreamscape. All three of us had tears rolling down our eyes. Abigail was just an idealist, looking for her perfect love and lost her life as a result. Ironically, the same day Scott died in the car crash.
God, why were you such an asshole, Scott?
Steph asked angrily as she looked up above, hoping Scott would hear her.
And this Genevieve character, she was as shady as hell. Betcha she caused Abigail to overdose. Let's head down to the sleep center. I'm texting Paul to join us. He knows a lot about Scott's research. This is a matter of life and death.
I'll bring the journal with me, I said. What do you think about the fedora, Steph?
I don't know. Don't pick it up. Leave it in the box. We'll take it with us.
We drove in Ryan's car up to Palo Alto to the Stanford campus. Paul met us there and was able to get me cleared to enter the building. Ryan had to stay behind. Paul took Steph and I back to the lab where he stored the data and equipment from Scott's research. We showed the journal to Paul and explained the entire situation, including how I was able to control my parasomnias.
Scott was like a brother to me,
Paul explained.
It was clear that he had commitment issues, but, he did tell me that he met someone special, someone back in April. I think he's referring to this Abigail girl. He saw her as someone who could give him unconditional love, unlike his mom.
See, I told you. Mommy issues.
Steph whispered jokingly to me. Paul continued.
He was empty inside, just couldn't let anyone in. Still, he was brilliant and passionate about his work. We have to get to the bottom of this, especially who this Genevieve person is. I wonder if... No, it can't be.
What is it, Paul? I asked.
Genevieve showed up on March 13th. She loves to wear hats, comes in paying cash, only wants to be there for 3 months, invades Abigail's privacy, and leaves her some pills? All too convenient.
Steph and I completely agreed with Paul.
Alex, you must be the empath in all of this.
Paul said as he looked at me sympathetically.
It's just a hunch, but I think Scott is trying to talk to us from the collective consciousness. He will reach out again. Let's get you set up.
I nodded in agreement. Paul had me go to the other room. I changed into a gown and rested on the bed. Steph came in and placed the sensors on my head and headphones in my ears. Calming nature sounds played in the background.
Hang in there, AAA. We'll be monitoring everything. Don't be afraid.
Steph gave me a wink and went to the other room. I could see her and Paul through the glass.
Okay, Alex, the machine is going to start up now.
Paul said through a microphone as he turned on the equipment.
The still images have been appearing after you've been asleep for about 5 hours. These are technically referred to as hypnopompic hallucinations. We will be recording this whole time. When you get to the hypnopompic state, what you're experiencing will appear like a movie on our screen. Again, this is surreal. Don't think about it. Just relax and let yourself doze off naturally.
I was exhausted. My eyes felt heavy, and I found myself drifting off. It was going to take a while before the parasomnias would appear. In the meantime, Steph and Paul conducted some online investigations on Abigail.
You know,
Steph said,
Abigail lived in an apartment in San Jose, a 2-bedroom.
What?
Paul asked.
Yes, I knew it. Abigail Parker, last known address, The Commons, number 2187. That's Alex's address.
Energy is neither created nor destroyed.
Paul interjected.
So, this means Abigail died in Alex's apartment. Her energy or life force may still be there. Being the empath that Alex is, she probably absorbed some of that energy from Abigail. It explains her instant attraction to Scott. This is all connected. What else was in that box Alex found?
There's a fedora,
Steph said.
I assume from the journal that this one belonged to Genevieve.
Steph lifted the fedora and found a note. About 5 hours passed, and it happened again. The still images appeared before my eyes in rapid succession. Slow down, I said. The images slowed. I carefully looked at each one until I could find Scott. Suddenly, an image appeared. It was a man and a woman at a restaurant. They were laughing at the bar. The woman was holding something in her hand. The man looked like Scott. Scott! I shouted at the image. He went from a still image to a real person. The woman remained as a still.
Alex,
Scott replied.
you came back.
This time I wasn't scared. I stayed in the dream. Scott, that woman next to you, what is her name? I asked.
She said it was Jen.
Scott said.
It's her nickname. Her real name is Genevieve.
Oh God, no! She dyed her hair blonde, and from a distance, Abigail probably didn't recognize her. Scott, were you supposed to meet someone else there? I asked.
Yes.
He replied.
A girl named Abigail. I call her Abby. I was supposed to meet her here for dinner, but Jen started talking to me. I lost track of time. I haven't seen Abby at all.
Scott, Jen is holding something in her hand. I can't see what it is. Can you describe it for me?
She's holding my dream catcher, Alex. We were talking about nightmares, and she wanted to see it.
Scott, listen carefully. That woman next to you is not who you think she is. All of a sudden, Scott's image froze, and the still image of the woman came to life. She then transformed into a shadow figure with a hat.
You thought you were bonding with Scott this whole time. No, it's been me. It's always been me. You can't save his soul, Alex. He's empty and shallow. He thinks no one can possibly love him. Abigail was a threat. I could sense Scott's heart opening to her. I could not have that happen. His soul is mine. I seduced Scott as Genevieve and stole his dream catcher. He didn't have it with him when he went to Seattle. It made him so afraid he could not sleep. Ah, the taste of fear. Sleepless without his precious dream catcher, Scott had a difficult time driving back to his hotel. He saw me standing in front of him on the road. He swerved into another lane and a speeding truck struck his car. He died instantly. And then sweet, innocent Abigail, you probably thought she overdosed on those sleeping pills I left for her. She suffered the same parasomnias as you, Alec. She saw a still image of Scott. She tried to reach him, but I stopped her. I fed on her fears of not being pretty enough, not being good enough. She didn't die from the pills. I killed her in her sleep. You are next, Alex. Something is blocking me from tasting your fears. I will find out what that is.
The images faded away, and I felt someone grab me.
Alex! Alex! Wake up!
Steph shouted while shaking me. He's after me.
Alex, we saw the whole thing.
Steph said with urgency.
Or we might know how to defeat him. Scott left a note for Abigail. It was in the box under the fedora.
Abby, I have this unsettled feeling. Understand that I have a strong desire to protect you. I think I unleashed a monster. The only way to stop him from coming after you is for you to have this dream catcher. It has been blessed and contains the special protection you need. Please attach it to your bedpost. It will keep you safe. Scott.
So we think that this other dream catcher is the one that Scott's mom placed around Scott's flower vase at the mausoleum.
Paul said as he rushed to take off my equipment.
Come on, Alex,
Steph said as she grabbed my belongings.
Ryan is waiting for us in the car. We're heading to the cemetery now.
Part 6. Fairy Tales.
While you were asleep, Alex, I did some further reading.
Paul said while sitting in the front seat next to Ryan. Paul brought the fedora with him, and it sat on his lap.
So he may be in disguise. Similar to Genevieve, he'll invade someone's body and take over. We have to be prepared for that. Don't trust anyone. We need to grab that dream catcher before he does. Remember, he feeds off fear.
Hey, this reminds me of A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3.
Ryan said with conviction.
Remember Dokken? Dream Warriors.
Ryan started singing in a cheesy tone and held up his right hand in a devil horns gesture.
See why I love this guy?
Steph mused. We all chuckled. We pulled up to the mausoleum. As we headed over to Scott's crypt, I saw Rox sitting on the bench nearby.
Alex,
Rox said.
I figured you'd stop by. I need to talk to you.
Be careful, Alex.
Paul warned in my ear as he walked past me.
Remember what I said in the car.
This whole situation was a little unnerving, but I was interested in what Rox had to say. We need to grab something. I didn't expect you to be here. So, what's going on, Rox? I asked. Before Rox could answer, Steph yelled,
Hey, Alex! Paul found it! We did it!
Steph and Ryan hugged.
Wait, where is Paul?
Steph asked.
He was right behind us.
I think he's been here the whole time.
Paul slowly walked out from the entrance where Scott was laid to rest. He put on the fedora and had a menacing grin. Paul? I asked in shock.
See, you can't trust anyone, can you, Alex?
Took out Scott's dream catcher from Paul's jacket pocket.
Rest assured, Paul is okay. I'm just borrowing him. I entered him when you and I finished that lovely chat in your head. You're all weak and foolish. I have what I need, and I'll see you in your dreams, Alex.
A shadow figure flew out of Paul's body, taking the dream catcher and the fedora with him. The figure and the items disappeared into thin air. Paul immediately dropped to the ground.
Paul!
Paul!
Are you okay?
We asked as we lifted him up.
Yeah, well, what happened?
Paul asked as he grabbed his forehead.
The last thing I remember, we were watching Alex's dream on the screen.
Scott's dream catcher, Paul, I said in a panic. What are we going to do next?
Nothing.
Rox interjected. She opened up her handbag and took out something wrapped in tinfoil.
Here you go, Alex,
Rox said with a smile. I gave Rox a suspicious look and unwrapped the foil in front of everyone. The dream catcher. Scott's dream catcher. You had this all along? I asked Rox. How did you know this was going to happen?
Everyone. I have been in the death business a long time,
Rox said.
The fairy tale is true.
The devil exists. God exists.
Paul interrupted Rox.
And for us, as people, our very destiny hinges upon which one we elect to follow.
Precisely,
Rox said with a smirk. Epilogue. Letting go. I was able to break the lease at my apartment without penalty, as the property managers did not disclose that someone died there. I moved into Steph and Ryan's guest house in Mountain View. Elmer liked it better, as there were more places for him to hide. I made sure to use Scott's dream catcher every night. Determined to one day bring peace to Scott and Abigail's souls, Paul continued Scott's parasomnia research. Paul needed a lab partner, and I agreed to join his team at Stanford. Of course, Steph was excited about that. For me, it was just nice to be part of something that was greater than myself. On the romantic front, Ryan introduced me to Mike, one of his firefighter co-workers. Gotta love those men in uniform. I also decided that it was time to let go of Rob. I went to the local thrift shop to donate my wedding gown. Ed, the owner of the shop, played Gossip Soup, a pop culture trash show that streamed online on the large television in the store. Host Sally Hyman went over the national headlines. I listened in as I browsed the store.
Here are the headlines for October 31st. Still no word on the whereabouts of Jamie Patterson, the co-ed from Ohio State, who has been missing since October 3rd. Jamie's boyfriend, Caltech student Mark Stevens, has started an online campaign claiming that a supernatural force is responsible for Jamie's disappearance. Things That Go Bump in the Night host Pete Williams believes that someone opened a portal to another dimension that allowed Bloody Mary, the childhood urban legend, to enter our world. Williams believes that this is just the beginning, and the worst is yet to come.
Sounds all made up to me,
Ed said with a snarky tone. Well, it is Halloween, I interjected. Everyone's entitled to one good scare. I finished browsing but noticed something on my way out. A dollhouse. The rooms looked so exquisite, such fine detail. The dolls inside were handcrafted and beautiful.
Pretty nice item for a thrift shop, huh?
Ed said. Yeah. Any takers? I asked.
Actually, yes. We posted this online and a person in Oklahoma City wants to buy it. We're shipping it out tomorrow.
Great. Well, good luck to you all, I said as I walked out, turning my back to the dollhouse.
Alex?
A small voice whispered. I turned around and there was no one there. Oh, shit.